Welcome to the Positive Change Methods podcast with me, Andy Smith. Each episode will bring you tips, practical change formats, and new perspectives to make your life and work better right now, drawn from Appreciative Inquiry and related approaches. This episode is brought to you by the Practical Appreciative Inquiry Facilitator Training. Let me show you how to get started using Appreciative Inquiry confidently with teams and small groups. The next live online course starts soon. You can find the details and how to book your place at coachingleaders.co.uk. Okay, let's get started. Episode 18. 3 ways you can use appreciative interviews to identify conditions for success. Here are some ways that you can use appreciative interviews, whether or not you're conducting a formal appreciative inquiry process. One way that appreciative interviews can be useful is in one-to-one coaching. When you conduct an in-depth appreciative interview with a coaching client, you'll uncover a wealth of useful information about what works for that individual. By asking what they find important and significant about the stories they've selected, you can discover something about their values and what motivates them as well. And of course, when the client's empathic network lights up, as it almost certainly will, as they tell their story of a peak experience, it makes it easier for them to envision their desired future and come up with new and creative ideas for making it happen. Finally, if you take the time to hear multiple stories of best experiences, the coaching client may discover patterns of success that they can reproduce in future by noticing what those stories have in common. Another way of using appreciative interviews is for organizational change. An organization could train up maybe 10% of its workforce as appreciative interviewers, who then go through the organization doing in-depth interviews of an hour or more with 9 or 10 other people, at different levels and in different departments. In addition to the usual discovery of inspiring stories and identification of conditions for success, the interviewers are tremendously increasing their understanding of other people's challenges and perspectives. This increased understanding should help communication, trust, and sharing of ideas between different areas of the organization. Also, by training up a proportion of its workforce as appreciative interviewers who then gain experience of finding what's working, the organization is building its own capacity for change and reducing its dependence on external consultants for future initiatives. Appreciative Inquiry Summits and appreciative team building. People can still do valuable appreciative interviews even without any prior training. Very often when I facilitate an appreciative inquiry process with a team or a whole organization, we'll have tables of 6 to 8 people. If it's the whole organization, you'd want each table to have a mix of people from different departments, different roles, different levels. The aim being to increase understanding of other people's experience and develop new working relationships across departmental boundaries. If we're working with just one team, at the very least we'd encourage people not to sit next to their closest colleague at work. I'll give participants an interview sheet with questions crafted around the topic of the inquiry, usually following the business-friendly appreciative interview format outlined earlier in the chapter. As well as the questions, the sheets will have space to make notes. You could fit all 4 questions on one side of A4 or letter-sized paper, or use both sides of a sheet, depending on how much space for note-taking you want to give your interviewers. I have the participants pair up with someone they don't normally work closely with, ideally someone at a different level and from a different functional area, and ask them to interview each other using the questions on the sheet as prompts. Around 15 minutes each way is enough time to do an interview of this kind. I brief participants that they should go through all the questions with one person interviewing and the other telling their story, then swap roles. Because if they both attempted to answer question 1 together, then move on to question 2 and so on, they would be dipping in and out of their memory and wouldn't be able to go into the experience so deeply. The other instruction I give participants is this. You're not after bullet points or detached analysis, you're after a story. You'll know when you're doing a good interview when you see the person you're interviewing start to relive the experience and lose themselves in the story, experiencing the same positive emotions they felt at the time. And you'll know when you're doing a really good interview when you find yourself, as the interviewer, feeling some of those same positive emotions. In the decade and a half that I've been using it, this process never fails to change the atmosphere in the room, as participants feel better recalling their successes and start to open up and trust each other, as sharing their stories activates their empathic networks. Next time, how to identify the themes emerging from appreciative interviews, whether you're working with a small team or conducting a large-scale organization-wide appreciative inquiry. Thanks for listening to the Positive Change Methods podcast with me, Andy Smith. You can find the show notes at positivechangemethods.com. Please like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you like this episode, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you can review it. See you next time.